Well, hello and welcome back. This is Patty Lindgren coming to you from Little Manitou Lake in Saskatchewan, Canada, Turtle Island. And today I'm going to deliver the second drop in the introduction to TITLI and natural and village intelligence. So if you're here, welcome. Thank you for coming. And without further ado, let's get going. The first video is the beginning, and this video is the second chapter. Natural and village intelligence and the TITLI way. With TITLI being short for Turtle Island Transformational Leadership Initiative, which is a map or a blueprint, comes from nature, for a way to organize, to naturally organize, to transform leadership and everything else. I'm going to start by saying thank you to some important people and acknowledging a kind of a co-authorship because of the mentorship I have received and inspiration I've received from these people. And in particular, Angelise Arian, who was a cultural anthropologist who wrote the book, The Fourfold Way, which provides us, if there's to be a textbook for this work, this is where the bibliography of textbooks begins. Angelise was a cultural anthropologist and an author of many books, including the title Second Half of Life, Opening the Eight Gates of Wisdom, Signs of Life, Living in Gratitude, and others, but in particular, as mentioned, The Fourfold Way, which is subtitled Walking the Paths of the Warrior, Teacher, Healer, and Visionary. This is where it begins, with the personal awareness and discipline of one's own resources and also the resources of us in combination. Other ancestors and elders who are, for me, really alive in this work are Subanpu Some, who's pictured there in the middle. I would characterize her as a world elder from the feminine. She was an author and a speaker. She's on the other side now. Somebody else I'm going to acknowledge shortly would call her and Angelise and Barbara Marks Hubbard, who you see on the far right, Sky Grannies. Malidoma Some is here, and he and Subanpu came from the same tribe in West Africa. He was also a world elder, but from the masculine, and was an author, speaker, and a ritual leader. Subanpu was also a ritual leader. Ritual, in this context, is not something creepy. It's about something sacred. It's about entering into an intentional relationship with Source and the earth plane to complete something very human. This kind of ritual is working with love and light, not with darkness and fear. Randy Thomas Jones, those are his feet there, you see, reflecting in the water. He's a humble man. He is the man who introduced me to the work of Subanfu and Malodoma, which ended up just really feeling like a massive catalyzing uh, influence on my own personal path. I traveled with Randy for about 3 years, uh, about 10 years ago, and I was a very difficult customer at the time. Medicine people are often difficult customers. And I was in the intensity of decompressing from my mainframe conditioning to return back to my natural intelligence. Barbara Marx Hubbard was a futurist, also a world elder, I would say, an author and a guide for conscious evolution. That's what she called it, evolving by choice, not chance. And I also need to thank my own family, my mom and dad, Morris and Kay, my maternal and paternal grandparents, aunties, uncles, and other elders from my many communities. I have been well accompanied on my journey by wise folk and simple folk and humble folk. And I definitely chose a good family to join into. Just want to recap natural intelligence. I'm kind of restating it in a bit of a different way than I did the first time. I could say it a million ways, and I will say it a million ways, but it always means the same thing. Natural intelligence is within each and every one of us. It is earth and source connection led. It's quiet, it's listening, it's receiving, it's intuiting, it's choosing, it's experiencing, it's growing, it's coming to and into knowing, it's moving, it's responding, it's creating. When we let it flow, it's expressing authentically in love. Village intelligence is that natural intelligence lived and manifesting in our partnerships. It's bringing living needs to living resources, which end up being the same thing. Resources, needs. A resource needs to be expressed. A need needs to be met with resources. It's the economy of needs and resource-based exchange, which is also a democracy. Bringing living needs to living resources wisely and creatively, anchored in with the living world in right relationship. Here, now, right now, and always and forever. It's self-perpetuating. The TITLI way blends natural and village intelligence practically for inspiring, responsible, organic, and healthy grassroots community cooperation leagues. Community cooperation, organizing, an alliance, a pact with your people, with the people you know, in the place that you are, to be generative, health-based, human, grounded, centered, here, now. The map you see is North America, and with its main watersheds. Turtle Island is the old name for North America, and it predates our provinces, territories, states, our countries. It is acknowledging the landmass that all of us who inhabit this place share, and the water knowledge and the water needs and the water resources and how they regionalize. And this brings me to acknowledge and thank a living granny in this work, a woman who I know as Becky Big Canoe, who lives on an island in a lake in Ontario, also in the land presently known as Canada. And Becky and I stumbled across each other on the internet, on Facebook, I believe. And she showed me some love and appreciation for the way that I speak. Eventually, it took a while, but eventually we ended up talking. And Becky also is holding something, a dream, similar to the way that I am holding this dream. And though her dream and my dream approach the situation differently, there is no real difference in terms of how they're anchored and how they're inspired. It's about living in partnership with land and water and each other in a good way. It's about the importance of the feminine, about the role of the grandmothers. It's about the way that nature is designed to express for maximum health, vitality, and peace. I had come up with the name Turtle Island Transformational Leadership Initiative years ago, but it didn't really land and anchor into its place until I met Becky. Becky was the catalyst. Becky is the one who brought watersheds to the fore in my consciousness and told me that what they do in her culture, the old ways of her culture, were that once a year you would spend sacred time presencing your watershed. So if you would go to your surface, body, the body of water on the surface that has the most to do with where you live, and you would either walk around it or paddle around it. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure what you would do if it was a river. I think there would be some sort of natural section of the river that you would travel, but I don't really know for sure. So if anybody does know, please let me know. But once a year, you make this pilgrimage around it and you presence it. Every year you get to see how it changes. You get to keep an eye on the health, and it gets to keep an eye on you, and you get a chance to align your chemistry in a way where you can bring the remedies, you can feel the remedies needed. If your water is sick, you are sick. If you're sick, your water's sick. They are two sides of the same coin. And this is why it is so often said by Turtle Island Indigenous people, anyway, that water is life. I think that goes far beyond. I think it's any nature-based people. There's my talking to remind me what my talking points were. And then this takes, now we move into a little bit more of the opportunity, the tricky territory of understanding and relating in the spirit of indigeneity. In Canada, basically what we have two primary groups of people as it's seen in the modern mind. We have the indigenous people who were always here, and then we have the settlers. And in the settlers, there are many waves of settlers, right? So the original settlers, back when Canada began, were a very different ilk to the people who are moving and settling here now. There's been several waves of settlers over this period of time that we're aware of. So the story that gets told is that there are indigenous people and non-indigenous people. And what that does effectively is divorce anybody who's settled here from their own personal indigeneity. So whether my people have always been from here, or my people in terms of this physical lineage that I'm occupying now, came from elsewhere, does not change the fact that we're all from Earth, and Earth has a different way of expressing her spirit in different places. And we all come from indigenous stock that expressed Mother Earth's nature where she was. So that indigenous stock in that place would create an ethnicity, a culture, a set of traditions. And no matter what language we speak them, they all hearken to the same core truth about being an earth being. So when we're talking about being indigenous and indigeneity, I don't know what the answers are, but they begin with a conversation about, can we all get clear on this? Because indigenous people, I think the plea is, would everybody please reconnect to source and nature? And if we think we're aliens, we're going to have a hard time doing that. If that's the story that's being told and believed by people of all kinds, then we're going to have trouble coming back to heart and center, right? So that conversation has so much life in us if we can get through the trigger spots and the fallacies that live in there. And one of those trigger spots and fallacies, in Canada, we have this truth and reconciliation process going on. And my sense is that, I don't know this for sure, somebody probably does, but I don't know for sure. My sense is that the term itself, truth and reconciliation, came from the wisdom of people who have lived here for a long time, people who lived here before the blueprint that now operates everything over here, government and, all of that stuff. Before that blueprint came over, the people of Turtle Island, before Turtle Island was renamed North America. And as I say that, I know there's all kinds of errors in there. There's all kinds of, I don't know what I don't know. There's lots of gaps to fill in. So, but I'm pretty sure it came from people who were here long time ago. And it's truth and reconciliation. What a powerful phrase. The trouble is, like everything else here, the government took it and messed it up. Government and corporations are paying for it and guiding a lot of what happens. And indigenous people and all people are being lied to and exploited. So we can just come back to land, water, soul, spirit, nature, paying attention. The indigeneity of all of us will come to the fore. And it won't be long before those who have been really keeping the traditions alive are rising to be heard, and a real truth and reconciliation process that it comes from the grassroots on up, that includes everybody, that explores all angles of the truth, not just the ones that the government is really happy about exploiting. Then we'll be sharing our gifts equal, shoulder to shoulder as equals, with mutual appreciation, and interest, respect, honor, all that. Okay. The presentation doesn't want to advance. So in the TITLI map of activities, one activity is culture camp. And this, the fourfold way, is level 1 of culture camp as I'm delivering it. The culture camp will grow with, as more and more talent finds its way into TITLI. Culture camp is going to grow so beautifully. But this is where it begins, because Angelise did, in my opinion, such a good job of simplifying the human psyche, and uh, and providing a practice and a blueprint for how we navigate as ourselves in great relationship with all the people in the rings of our world. It all centers around the number 4. We have 4 resources, 4 archetypes, 4 ways of living, and 4 practices are kind of at the top. There's more than that. You can do more quartering, but let's start there. First resource is power. Second resource is vision. Third resource is love. And the fourth resource is wisdom. And you will notice that I have a plus in front of power and a minus in front of love. That is signifying the positive end of, if you look at that medicine wheel in the center. You and I are the core of that. And now see a battery. You see how the power goes right through the core? And there's a positive end on a battery and a negative end, and that's what keeps the energy moving, oscillating. The archetype to go with power is the warrior or the leader. And this is signifying pure presence. The warrior is incredibly present. They have to be, right? The leader too. The warrior is in defense mode. The leader is in offense mode. One way to look at it. But it's the same energy. It's our power. And we have a lot of it. The archetype for the resource of vision is the visionary, the seer. For love, it's the healer. And for wisdom, it's the teacher. The practice for working with our power is to show up and choose to be present. And when we can do that, then we're in a position to take right action. For working with our vision, the practice is to speak truth without blame or judgment. And in speaking truth without blame or judgment, we find ourselves calibrating for right placement. Whatever our gift is, whatever kind of seer, whatever kind of visionary we are, there is a right placement for us. When we're in the wrong placement, things are tough. When we're in the right placement, we are generative. The practice for working with our love is to pay attention for what has heart and meaning. And when we do that, and we discipline ourselves using all of the, combining all of the archetypes and the resources to say what we mean and mean what we say and use our word in the direction of love, not in the direction of fear, not attacking, but sharing, loving, giving. When we are in right speech, our love flows. For teacher, the practice is to be open to outcome, not attached. And to find ourselves in right timing. So when we are attached to a particular outcome or a particular position or perception, we're stuck. We become nouns. And wisdom is a verb. Wisdom is grown through movement and experience. And being attached to things gets in the way of our wisdom growing and flowing. When our wisdom is growing and flowing and we're practicing right speech and we're in right placement and we're disciplining our power for right action, when we bring through our wisdom in right timing, not just blathering on all the time because we can, we can see where it's actually helpful and when it's needed. We don't make this initiatory journey from one world to the next without wisdom and the gravitas of the detached elder. Now I'm going to run through the headlines of what's in each of the chapters in Angelisa's book. So reminder that power is the archetype of the warrior leader. The practice is to show up and choose to be present. It's a very masculine part of our four-chambered heart, our four resources. And the direction associated with it is north and the positive end of the battery. The book includes healthy expressions and shadow expressions of each of the resources. This is a great basic psychology lesson and very practical and usable. It's not that there couldn't be modifications made or additions made to this material. Angelisa wrote it in 1990, I think 1990. Maybe 1993. I can't remember. It's like was written in a simpler time, and I think that's a good thing because it keeps the information more basic and easier to connect with, and then grow yourself in the ways that it's relevant in these days. She also includes empowerment tools and a nature connection. And there's questions. But so for power, healthy expression, honor, and respect. Respect and honor. You're not out there with a spear in a war. You are honoring and respecting life, others. Judicious communication. Say what you mean what you say. Do what you said you would do. Limits and boundaries. You're not using your power over the limits ascribed to you naturally and projecting it onto somebody else. That is aggression. And you're not letting people into yours aggressively either. You're saying, nah, back off, get your own sandwich. Responsibility and discipline. Discipline means to be a disciple unto yourself. So you discipline yourself to act responsibly with your power, to choose responsibly with your power, to take right action. Right use of power, which I really just explained. And 3 universal powers of present, as in I'm here now, of communication, meaning I'm communicating judiciously. And judicious communication, I believe she breaks it down and describes it as delivering the right content in the right context at the right time. And then also would be not using your word against, using your words to create and in a just way, not to harm. Angeles says in the book that when we have these 3 universal powers activated, presence, communication, and position, when we are delivering the right content in the right context and the right timing, when we are honoring and respecting life and others, when we're exercising responsibility and discipline, when we're minding healthy limits and boundaries, we are big medicine and we cannot be ignored. I would say not all of us would be able to say this yet, have enough distance, but some of us are really embodied and here, and some of us are dissociated. And, we probably all come and go in both, vacillate between both states. But some people are here now way more than other people. So whoever you are and whatever your gifts are, wherever you live, that makes you a leader in this time. And if you feel like you're not here yet, the fact that you're aware of it means you're on the path. And so, this work just helps you keep going and being surrounded by others who are on it too. Shadow expressions include rebellion. And I know a lot of people are proud of being rebels in this time, and I understand that. In Angelisa's terms, in the context of this work, what it means is that you're still fighting, you're still rebelling, you haven't stepped into your big medicine, stepped into your power, you're not just choosing to lead, you're still fighting back about something, or you're grinding a grudge, or you're not at peace. The rebel, the healthy rebel in this work is the warrior/leader. We will have authority issues if we've still got shadow stuff going on, whether it be programming kind of shadows or wounding kind of shadows. If we can't stand in our own authority, if we do not have the confidence to stand to author ourselves, then we're probably rebelling against authority issues, the government, the elite, the UN, our teachers, our bosses, anybody who's got power over us will have authority issues if we're not standing in our own power and refusing their allure as an authority figure, whether they mean it or not. And what I mean by that is some people are actively trying to take our power, and then other people simply remind us of somebody who took our power, of something that we have unresolved, and we'll project that unresolved stuff on the innocent who's not doing anything to take our power. Another shadow expression is patterns of invisibility, hiding or holding back. If you're a keyboard warrior, that's one way that we hide and hold back. You're not actually putting yourself out there in front of other humans and taking the big risks. You're doing it from the safety of your home and your device and possibly your pseudonym that you're running around the world with. Riding on the coattails of powerful people. So idolatry comes in here, usury comes in here. You're attaching, rather than taking a risk with your own authority and your own voice, you are globbed on to somebody and hanging on their every word, and you won't do anything unless the coattails that they're leaving behind are something you can jump onto. You're not taking your own risks. And you're kind of vampire on their power. You're probably not reciprocating. You're not in a position at that point to reciprocate with them, so that what you take from them, you're giving back. You're using them. That's what taxation is. That's what government is. It's riding on the coattails of we the powerful people. Another shadow is influencing situations from behind the scenes. So you won't be seen. You're invisible. And you're poking the bear from behind the scenes and manipulating things rather than coming out and saying, here I am. This is what I see. This is what I believe in. Addiction to perfection. You won't do anything because you're not perfect enough yet, or you won't be seen without makeup and fancy clothes, or you've got some bar for how you need to be that is imaginary, an imaginary state of perfection, when actually who you are naturally at any given moment is your perfection. That's your perfection. You won't do things because you don't want to make a mistake, or you won't let people see you do things because you don't want to make a mistake. You want everything to be perfect. You don't want any bumps. But it ends up becoming, it's silly. Yeah. Empowerment tools here include rattle work. So the sorry, I should have paused it. I can't seem to put my hands on my rattle right now, but I really wanted to give you a sense of it. Okay, I'm gonna go get my rattle. Just gonna pause this for a sec. Sorry about that. What have I wanted to stop recording and I ended up stop sharing. Okay, just gotta gather myself. Okay. The rattle is the very first toy we give a baby more often than not. And according to Angelise in her book, that's because rattling over our body moves the molecules, stops things from stagnating. And it also keeps our auric field circulating well. So that anytime we have we lose a bit of our soul, like I won't go into details about this story at this point, but just to give you some highlines. When I was 8, I was molested by the school janitor, and a piece of me split off, and I actually got amnesia and forgot about it until I was reminded by somebody else telling me a story of sexual assault from their childhood when I was in my 20s. So it took nearly 20 years for a good 15. A part of me was gone. And so the rattle helps those lost soul bits, those parts of us that we partition off and forget about. It helps us bring those back, right? And so we use it for health of the whole energy system. And we use it to keep the soul moving properly, to bring back the lost bits so that we can integrate those things and make them part of our strength. I guess I need to put this back up. So there's rattle work, dancing. Already introduced you to the rattle. So, dancing is the same thing. We're working with our energy field here. So dancing, rhythm, oh yeah, that brings you out of your head and into your body. This, one of the shadows here, it can also be like a lot of headiness. Standing meditation. This is when you stand in your power. You got your feet on the earth. You've got your core, your breathing, the life force up and down your core. And you stand, you feel your power and you just stand in it. Oh, it's a great exercise. Animal guides and allies. So, crows, they love shiny things. They're incredibly intelligent. They'll trade with you. If you give them something, they'll bring you a gift back to say thank you. Years ago, when I first found out about animal guides and allies, it was in the context of the animal totem. And whatever it was that I was connecting with was saying, you should know what your animal totem is. And if you don't know, one of the ways you might find out, is if you go home and have a look around your house to see what signs of animal life are there. I wasn't expecting anything, but when I got home, I noticed I have elephants everywhere. And one is a set of brass elephants that were my mother's, and one is an elephant wood carving that hangs on the wall that I bought for my mom. And no, I didn't buy it for my mom. My mom bought it for me. Sorry, my memory's getting corrected. I saw it in the dollar store in my mom's town. And I said, that's what I would like for Christmas. So she got me one. And, and then I have other elephants, one beautiful red one that came from somewhere in the East, kind of an Indian style elephant. And the house that we're living in, when we found it, there was a little plastic elephant in one of the windows. So anyway, for me, it's the elephant, and the elephant is well, there's lots of aspects to the elephant, but they're solid, they're slow, they're steady, they bond for life, they grieve and have funerals, and they're really a very, very strong messenger about community and soul that comes from the animal. Trees, think about trees, what are they doing? They're a toroidal field. There's just this great big power tube, right? With the energy of the earth coming up through the roots into the trunk and then going up into all the branches and reaching up to the sky. So the trunk of a tree is conducting the life force energy just like we do. I can say more about the tree too, but I'll leave it at that for now. So the right relationship way of living here is right action, which we've talked about. So with our power, we want to take right action. Okay, love and the healer. I'll try to go a little bit quicker. I don't know if I should or shouldn't, but anyway, we'll just see what happens here. So feminine is associated with the direction of south. I'm going from north to south. I'm going down the center of the pole. The healer, love, obviously very feminine. So masculine up top on the positive end, feminine down on the bottom on the negative end. One is, women are complex creatures. We do a tremendous amount of emotional and spiritual heavy lifting. We transmute trouble into love. We make babies. We feed babies. We nurture babies. We accompany sisters through their own portals of change. We become grandmothers. We help hold space for people to leave the plane. Healthy expression are that our four-chambered heart, and our heart does have four chambers, are full, open, clear, and strong. 6 kinds of love, which I'll go into after I finish this slide. 8 concepts of healing, which I'll also touch on after this slide. Self-care, 8 universal healing principles, another one I will expand on. The principle of reciprocity, and this is where when I talked about needs meeting resources before as the economy, that's reciprocity is you don't take, you receive. You don't give, you receive. The giving and the receiving is in the reciprocity. The fact that this is in the healer quadrant makes perfect sense to me, because everything about the feminine pretty much is taken for granted. So the planet itself, the mothers in the plane, these things are not compensated for what they give, and they give and they give and they give all the time, but they run out. If everybody's taking, they run out. And so they must be reciprocated. They must be the thing that starts the flow of love going and keeps it going, so that what is given is returned. What is returned is given, so that you have the figure 8, the infinity symbol, working for the feminine in everybody, which is our authentic contribution, the thing that we season our love with. Shadow expression, That four-chambered heart is we're half-hearted, we're closed-hearted, we're doubting-hearted, or we're weak-hearted. Heart health is so important, and it is as much spiritual and creative and connective as it is physical. Absolutely. If we're not taking good care of ourselves, that's a shadow expression of our love. If we have addictions present, and Angeles chooses to encapsulate all the addictions as a shadow of love. So one is what is not working. Another is the addiction to perfection, which we talked about under power and the warrior. The addiction to intensity, and the addiction to the need to know. And specifically here for love, it's the addiction to intensity. If we're not flowing in love, we're not feeling alive, and we will overblow everything into a high octane situation in order to feel alive. So everything's always got to be a problem or a crisis or whatever. We can't come down to peace and healthy oscillating. The four this is empowerment tools. 4 universal healing salves. Dancing, as we talked about with power. Singing goes with the voice. Storytelling, that goes with love and the healer, telling our stories, really knowing each other and learning from each other. Journey work in the drum, another way to support our love. And lying meditations, because when we're lying, we're connecting with the earth on all points. And cradling work is to love ourselves, to bring the mothering or the fathering that we missed when we were young, and cradle the child within. The right relationship way of living is right speech, already touched upon here. The nature connection here, I forget what she says about it for the healer. We'll see it later. So I said I would expand on a few things, so we'll do this very quick. The 6 kinds of love: love between mates and lovers, love between parent and child, love between colleagues and friends, professional love between teacher and student, therapist and client, love of self, unconditional love, or spiritual love. In the 8 concepts of healing, we have that healing is a lifelong journey towards wholeness. Healing is remembering what has been forgotten about connection and unity and interdependence among all things living and non-living. It's embracing what is most feared. It's opening what has been closed and softening what has been hardened into obstruction. It's entering into the transcendent, timeless moment when one experiences the divine. Healing is creativity and passion and love. Healing is seeking and expressing self in our fullness, in our light and shadow, in our male and female, and learning to trust life. 8 universal principles for healing: maintaining a balanced diet, daily and weekly exercise, time for fun, play, and laughter, music, sonics, and chanting. I would also add in here frequencies, love, touch, and support systems, and being engaged in interests, hobbies, and creative purpose. I'm the kind of person, some people like to do that on the side and their work is something different. I'm one who, my work and my interests, hobbies, and creative purpose have to be the same. To me, that is living your vocation forth. And really, I think that brings about optimum health, although some people may well be satisfied fulfilling a function out in the world, and then having a rich and separate creative life. Nature, beauty, and healing environments, where our communities and especially our cities, everything that gets all the media, it's so cold and so dead. but just getting out into nature, being in the presence of beauty, and being in environments where love comes first. Everybody needs those. And the presence of faith and belief in the supernatural, whatever that is for you. You know, I personally feel like this is a holodeck, and that there is some benevolent force of love that is really the architect, um, uh, the grand architect, and um, the builder, and we are mediums. We are agents for that in this place, and we create with our love and our ideas, our dreams, our mental faculties, and our willingness to connect and be generous. So some people would call that God and might call that a religion. I don't. I have faith. I feel the love in me, and I have faith that love is and wisdom and intelligence and all these things that speak to me, that I hear all the time, are the true initiator of something grand, of which I am some small part, but like a fractal. Okay, the visionary, healthy expression, creative purpose and life dream. You're living your creative purpose, you're living your life dream, you're connected to source, you know what that is. Authenticity, you are you, I am me, you are beautiful just the way you are. That is your exchange here, is you being yourself as a genius, a creative genius. Truth telling. So use your word impeccably. Speak the truth. And recognize that sight in Angelise's, in this presentation, has four aspects to it, primary aspects. There's perception, what we perceive. There's intuition, what we intuit, our natural intelligence. Insight, when we have those, aha, I get that. We understand ourselves better in relationship to the world. We understand it inside. And then vision itself. So the future we see, the way of our dreaming. This is original medicine. And I'm going to tell you a little story about big medicine and original medicine at the end of this. We are each an original medicine, duplicated nowhere else on earth. And this is where it lives, in the visionary part of us, in our resource of vision. The shadow expressions are the false self system. So we're feeding a false sense of ourselves. And we're not source connected inside. And we've created an image of ourselves, or an image of us has been created for us. And we bought it and we feed it all the time. Self-abandonment. So we abandon ourselves. Going gets tough and we check out to keep the peace or to avoid conflict. We don't stand up for ourselves when somebody comes over our boundaries. We don't love ourselves enough to make sure that we are honored and respected, and we abandon ourselves. Mirrors and projections. This is huge, absolutely massive. We should all learn about this when we're young. So when we're not, fully embodied and totally healthy, we're constantly projecting ourselves onto other people, and other people are constantly projecting themselves onto us. We don't realize that our perception is our perception, nothing more and nothing less. So we try to make what we see, what we're perceiving, become the truth for somebody else, and we project that out. Or we're on a grand adventure, and we project that grand adventure on everybody who shows up, and we don't actually become present for them and find out what it is, why they're there, what they have to offer. And we project our stuff on our dream onto them, or we project our wounds onto them because they remind us of some unresolved aspect of ourselves, some unresolved relationship. Maybe I remind you of your mother, or the woman down the street you couldn't stand, or whatever, and you put that on me, or I do the same to you. This is huge. It's very confusing. It's like being spellcast. You don't know your butt from a hole in the ground when you're really involved in this. And then as you start to become more lucid about it and recognize the pattern, then you slowly bring those pieces. Those are like lost soul bits that you're projecting on other people. You slowly draw those home and reintegrate those projections into who you are, so that you really can be authentic and speak the truth. So you're not living with shame and hurts that you're just sharing and projecting around, often willy-nilly. Fixed perspectives and blind spots. I alluded to this before. You think your perception is it. Oh my God, that's it. This is it. I'm fixed now. This is how I see the world. I saw this. I believe it. I see this. I'm now not able to see anything else. So somebody comes along with a different point of view that feels contrary to what you've got going on here, and you're like, no, talk to the hand, because you're locked and loaded in your position. You're wearing a title or a label or something and turning yourself into a noun. You're halting yourself from further progress and growth because you will not look at certain things. And then, blind spots. We all have blind spots. We don't know what we don't know. And many of us don't know that we don't know what we don't know. Addicted to what is not working. So because we're not in right placement, because we're not living authentically, because we're not telling the truth, because we're not living forward our creative and purpose and life dream, for whatever reasons that is. And I'm not here to fault anybody for that. We've all been programmed, and we've all been wounded. So no blame here. But we end up becoming negative Nellies, and we just circle the drain of death. All we can see is what isn't working. We can no longer see what does work, what can work, what we could be doing. All we can do is circle the negative spiral entropy drain, until we die, or break the pattern, right? We can always break the pattern. Empowerment tools include bell work. Ding, ding. The vision in us is the child. So I'm going to invite you to experience these empowerment tools from your inner child. Singing. Do, 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 ooh. Getting our voice back. Whoa, woo. The visionary has to give voice to this inner sight. Meditation, prayer, and contemplation. There's a lot of reflecting that goes on, a lot of listening. This is our genius connected to source. So meditating, contemplating, and seeing the word prayer differently after some recent truth bombs that I witnessed from a couple of fellas. I would take that out now. Prayer is for a pray, like pray, P-R-E-Y. So meditation, contemplation, dreaming, let's say, you're with your sight, you're cultivating a dream for the future. Victor Hugo, nothing like a dream to create the future with. Walking meditation, when we're moving, everything's moving, that reflecting, that contemplating, that meditation. Oh, yeah. One foot down on the ground, then the other, taking a journey, especially if you're wearing shoes that do not have rubber soles and are not disconnecting you from earth and completing your circuit. Vision quest. The Australian Aborigines are the ones who are most famous for the dream time and the vision quest, where they go out by themselves for a coming of age quest where they purify their sight and get back in touch with the inner genius and the creative purpose in life dream. The right relationship way of living is right placement. Boy, do I know this one well, because visionary is where I feel strongest. And when I don't have right placement, I don't do well at all, because I'm like a fountain of ideas and creativity. And if that can't flow and be reciprocated, then I start to die on the vine. And so I've spent a lot of time dying on the vine. I come to you with faith and love and a dream in a healthy state, but I didn't get here without lots of dark nights of the soul, feeling like I didn't belong. It's natural. It's not fun, and it's what we came to change, but it is part of the process. For wisdom and the archetype of the teacher, whose practice is to be open to outcome, not attached. Healthy expressions are wisdom, which Angelise breaks down as clarity, objectivity, discernment, and detachment. Trust, being comfortable with uncertainty. None of us knows what tomorrow will bring. We can dream tomorrow. We can set the tone for tomorrow, and we don't know for sure what's going to how this manifesting realm is going to return to us. We don't know. So you have to be comfortable not knowing. Detachment. I would add neutrality in here. I think neutrality is a good word. Plus, anybody who's read Robert Hawkins' work about power and force knows about the different levels of frequency and the importance of neutrality. We can't create the new world while we're attached to things. We need to be neutral. Loss and ritual. We lose so much and do not engage in farewell and gratitude ceremonies. And we miss so much of the wisdom harvest because of it. So in our healthy expression, working with our wisdom, we're honoring change, we're honoring loss, and we're doing it with loving rituals of gratitude and appreciation and recognition. Shadow expressions include patterns of positionality, judgment, and control. So we fixed in our positions. We judge others. We want to control things. Confusion. You can't help but be confused if you're clinging to having things your own way. Attachments. Addicted to the need to know. This means control. We need to know all the time. So we're constantly asking questions and constantly trying to manipulate things because we have this addiction to the need to know what's coming next, what's going on. We can go down rabbit holes of discovery for ever and ever and ever and never come out. And then we can also change those patterns. Empowerment tools include the ancestors. This one can be, not everybody likes that. But in particular, I've had a Christian tell me that ancestors was not something that she was comfortable acknowledging. And to that, I would say, well, Jesus was an ancestor, you know, in the archetypal sense. Ancestors are the ones who came before us, who, thanks to them, we're here now. They've lived their lives from beginning to end, and they've learned all kinds of wisdom. They shared their seed with us so that we could be here. There is a lot of they are potentially our helpers in the other realm, and they may also be the energies of the past that we need to heal in order to make this change. Silence. Sitting meditation. Water. All the natural intelligence of the earth realm is in the water. The water hydrates us, nourishes us, it flows. It's always changing. It has different states. It can be ice, can be liquid, can be gas, vapor. The right relationship way of living is right timing for our wisdom. Elders often don't say much, but when they do speak, it's worth 1,000 of somebody else's words. I remember thinking when I went through menopause and I got to the other side of menopause, I remember thinking, oh, that's the trouble. That primal urge to procreate, the primal tension between the sexes, the sexual tension. That's where all the trouble comes. I remember thinking that. So elders are, they're not producing children anymore. Those primal urges have subsided, and the power now in the being, the resources in the being, have a different purpose, a purpose of guiding. Here are the shadow expressions all at once. I'm just going to leave you to look at that quietly for a minute and think about yourself and think about the world. And then last, think about the people you share this space with. And then here's the healthy expressions. Okay, we're getting near the end here of this part. This map is from me. And rites of passage is one of the carrier events in TITLI. But because we're all going through our rite of passage. So we start with birth. The first rite of passage is birth. And this is when our power and purpose arrive in the plane. Materiality begins. Spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical resources are all coming online. Childhood is when we're playing, discovering, learning to socialize, and beginning the process of realizing who we are, of self-realization. And we move into adolescence, where we will have a coming of age. That self-realizing turns more into self-actualizing, and we're becoming more independent, breaking away from the cocoon of our parents in our every moment. Then we have parenthood. Then we have adulthood, partnership, and parenthood at mid-phase. In adulthood, we're learning to look at personal responsibility for ourselves. So it's one thing to want to be independent, to want to claim your own authority, to want to become an adult, but then you have to accept responsibility for yourself. It's a two-part thing. In partnership, we learn about cooperation, whether that's a romantic partnership or a working partnership or any kind of partnership. And in parenthood, we learn responsibilities to others. And that parenthood really is better said as motherhood and fatherhood. And then we have saging and elderhood, where we begin to detach. We detach from our children. We might detach from our homes, our jobs, grudges, beliefs, all kinds of things. We're starting to get to the point where we're getting older. We have enough experience and enough space to start making sense of things and to begin guiding others. This is where oftentimes the word elder gets is a bit mucked up in our society, because in Canada anyway, Indigenous societies, the original, the people who were here on Turtle Island, Turtle Islanders have the word, they use the English word elder to have the fullness of the spiritual wisdom and guide and responsibility and like a pure benevolence kind of thing. And in the English language, elderhood is maybe not quite so pure, let's just say. It can be very pure, but it's more about experience and hindsight and care for others, and maybe less about formal teaching kind of thing or a formal role, which, some kind of, I don't know, conversation to be had there, some kind of blending or expansion on that. Makes sense to me. And then the final one that we go through is death. And this is the opposite of birth. Our power and purpose are leaving. We're dematerializing. Our spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical states are completing, and we're leaving the realm. Village intelligence. This map introduces an old new way of dreaming and being to co-create shared reality with. I'm just extending where we've been. It's layered, begins with land and water. We have the directions we know as north, south, east, and west. Circle of life. These are the energy currents of the plane and of the people, including the positive and negative poles, and it suggests the toroidal field. These are people, we the people in our equality around and engaging in the circle of life. And the four circles within are recognition of the naturally occurring individual and group archetypes, phases, functions, needs, and resources. So up at the top, we have power, leadership, the masculine. At the bottom, we have love, health, and the feminine. In the east, we have vision, seeing, and genius. And in the west, we have sage, experience, and wisdom. Power, leadership, masculine is about protecting and providing for life and loved ones, building, expanding, doing no harm. Love, health, the feminine is about feeling, accepting, and nurturing the life and creativity coming into, alive, and leaving the plane. Vision, the seer, the genius, the child, curiously exploring self in life, growing into a healthy, self-propelling asset. And finally, the sage, experience, wisdom, guiding for careful relations with all creating beings in the community. So there's Angelisa's work then blown out into something I call village intelligence. And that's it for the end of 2. The 3rd video will be coming up, and I will be sharing the maps of TITLI, the next layer, and also a few more maps from me, from my work, about that connect nature and connect and embed nature better. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, share. You know what they say. Soon I will be explaining how I work in the voluntary economy and how you can say thanks if you want to say thanks. And as I said at the end of, or somewhere in the first video, all positions are open. So if at any time you see yourself in the picture, then please reach out to me directly. Wild and Salty Healing Company at protonmail.com, and tell me what you see and how you see yourself and what you feel inspired to contribute, because boy, there's a network to be made here and great information to be shared and a future to build. All right, over and out for now.